Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fantastic episode of What One Thing, a Smart Meetings podcast where we ask successful people what made all the difference in their life and career so you can learn from their journeys and spark your own growth. I'm your host, Devon Montgomery Pasha, pronouns she, her, and today I'm joined by Layne, known to audiences across North America as Layne the Auctionista. Layne is a keynote speaker, MC, entrepreneur, author, and fundraising powerhouse who has helped raise more than $70 million for charitable organizations. Known for blending humor, authenticity, heart, and high energy audience engagement, Layne has built a career around helping people connect more deeply with themselves and each other. Through keynote presentations like From She to They, Making Friends with the Future, and Bidding to Be Your Best, Layne inspires audiences to embrace authenticity, resilience, belonging, and courage. Layne, welcome to What One Thing.
It is so great to be here with you. I have missed you. I'm so excited to chat with you. And let's see what kind of rabbit hole trouble we can get into today. Joyous trouble.
I hope our listeners are excited. I was thinking about guests to bring on the show who really have inspiring careers, who've gone through an experienced journey, who could share and create that sense of belonging. And, you know, I've been a huge fan of your story over time since I actually heard you on a podcast almost 2 years ago. And the story was so moving. I think it's great to share with a wider audience. So want to start our rabbit hole at the beginning and go back to the origin, the dawn of your time, and really ask you, because you've had such an impact in the charitable institutions that you've worked for, what first drew you to this world of auctioning, fundraising, speaking, and being your emanating presence on stage that encourages that type of connection?
Well, that's all very, very kind of you to say, and I really appreciate that. But guess what? Like many people, I literally fell into my career completely by accident. I was 47 years old when I attended my very first charity gala, and I had never been to one. It was just not in my realm, not in my world. And so my wife, Sue, and we walked in. I didn't know what to expect. There were all these, bread baskets and boards and boogie boards all over with, pieces of paper where you write numbers on. And then the auctioneer came out. And I mean, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what to expect. But what I remember is how I felt. I felt jarred. I felt pushed. I felt extremely uncomfortable. And I thought to myself, this is the best that this charity can do. This dude is driving me out the door like, I want to get out of there. And I thought to myself, this is not okay. I said to Sue, oh my gosh, I think I could do this. And she said, honey, you don't even know what this is. Like, you're a financial advisor. What is this? And I said, guess what, Susie, I'm going to go find this guy and I'm going to ask him, what is this? And how do I learn to do that? So I found him. He had his cowboy hat on and he was a livestock auctioneer. I mean, I didn't know that, but I know that now. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, how do I learn to do what you just did? And he looked me up and down, and everybody knows this story. And he said these words to me that lit a spark in my belly so hard. He said to me, hey, little missy, this is a generational career. And he turned his back to me and he walked away. And I was like, nobody puts Layne in the corner.
Nobody puts baby in the corner?
No, that's right, baby Layne. How dare he? And there is no good that is ever going to come out of a conversation that starts with, hey, little missy. Anyway, but 6 months later, I did my research and I went to auction school in Mason City, Iowa. I galloped my way down there and went to auction school, and my vision was very small. I had no idea this was going to become a career. I just thought, hey, if I could do 2 or 3 auctions a year, I could earn a little bit of play money for us. We can go to, Punta Cana one year, and I really had small vision thinking because I had a career, another full-time career. But one auction turned into 10, turned into 50, turned into 100, and turned into a business that has opened the gateway for me into keynote speaking. I've just written a memoir that is going to be published later this year. It has given me my purpose in life, my why. and I didn't even know. And it's like, who knew that the day that I walked through those doors into that gala room would be the day that I would find my superpower that I didn't even know I had.
Well, speaking of superpowers, I wanted to kind of dive into this next question. And I really appreciate the story of being drawn to something. You never know. There's a book I used to read my daughter, and it's about ringing your bell on the inside. You have to try lots of things and see what rings your bell inside your heart, because that's what's special to you. So before becoming the auctionista in your pre-life as a financial advisor, was there one thing about yourself that you knew or felt was different and unique even before you fully embraced it and rang the bell as the auctionista and had another becoming journey?
Yes, absolutely. It's my inner child. It's baby Layne. And I talk about baby Layne a lot because I feel like I'm very connected to my inner child. I'm very playful. I like to have fun. So I've always been a bit of a ham. So, I mean, I knew I've always felt a little different. Also because, I'm gay, queer, non-binary. I always felt a little bit unusual, but I always felt that there was something quite different about me compared to all the other kids at school. So, and I do think that it boils down to that. So many adults forget to play. They forget about the joy. And I always go back to being that little 2-year-old self, where I'm in my crib, standing up from a night's sleep, hands on the rails. My mommy comes into the room and says, "Good morning." And I'm like, yes, it's daytime. What are we going to do? What are we going to explore? What's going to happen today? And I feel very, very strongly about keeping that in the forefront of everything that I do every day of my life.
That's such a fantastic answer. And now I'm dying to go back in time and see what the baby Layne 2-year-old was like, and then buy your mom a drink. Because I think that delightful woman probably saw the spark in you, and then probably at the end of every day was like, "I'm exhausted."
Yeah. I mean, I am a lot. I am a lot. And Sue says that too, that I am a lot, but in the best possible way. And, it's very, very funny because not long ago, we're at a dinner party and somebody said, "Hey, let's go around the room, shall we? And you say the one thing that you love about your partner." Well, there were all kinds of various answers and all kinds of things were said. And Sue said something that I did not expect. I thought she was going to say, "Layne is so generous," or "Layne is kind." No, she said, "The number one thing about you is you make me laugh. And that just brings me so much joy." So that is my purpose in life. I love bringing joy to people. I love making people feel very, very special. I am grateful for a lot of things in my life. And humans are what makes the world go round, human connection. Without that, we are nothing. We are a group of animals that need each other, need to care for each other, need to hold each other. And I really believe strongly in that.
I love that. And I love the reminder that one of the best ways to connect with someone else is through this idea of play, as it breaks down the preconceived notions and it breaks down those sort of, beta blocker barriers where like I can't connect with that person. But through play, it kind of puts us at ease, makes us more comfortable. We can be more creative. We can be more thoughtful. We can connect better. So I love that you infuse that. And that's your idea of connection. And going back to marrying your desire for connection and it being your why and the driver, and bringing back up these $70 million, just want to reiterate that. $70 million raised for charity. What has fundraising and this connection really taught you about people?
So, I think the greatest gift that we can give each other as human beings is our gift of time and our resources. I talk a lot about privilege and acknowledging our privilege because I think that is a very healthy thing to do. And when you use your privilege for good, to help lift others up, to help them achieve their success, to help them thrive, to live their best life, to reach their goals. I mean, I think that is incredibly powerful. And through fundraising, of course, it's storytelling. It is connecting with each other, about our lived experience and how those donors in that room, by giving of their resources, their financial resources and their support, have helped individuals succeed, whether, it's through getting through terrible medical situations or finding programs and supports. I mean, philanthropy is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes. It can be volunteering, it can be making a donation. Like I said, it's a gift of time and your resources, whatever that is for yourself. So it's something that we can all do and give to each other in one way, shape, or form.
It's a fantastic, fantastic answer. I love that you keep weaving this idea of connection and really honing in on philanthropy and fundraising as a privilege and how we can use that privilege for good. I think giving us permission to share what philanthropy can look like in all its different shapes and sizes and remind us that we have a privilege to give back and that we can. And I love that validation. It's really driving you towards your idea because you deal with so many people and you've seen the recipients of some of this money, you've seen the recipients of these stories, and you've seen those who come to support the mission. So what do audiences need the most right now that they may not even know that they're looking for? What do people need right now? What are you seeing and sensing that people need the most right now that maybe they're not even sure that they're looking for?
Well, I don't think that people really think about the importance of belonging and what this word really truly means. Belonging is that feeling of you're in a space where people want you, where they value you, where you feel at ease and your authentic self. And it is a very critical thing because when one does not have that sense of belonging, it can really damage us. It can lead us to something called code switching, which I talk a lot about, where, and I think of myself, and I'll give you an example of code switching. I have changed the tone of my voice, made it just a little bit higher so that maybe I don't sound like people are going to wonder, are you a man or a woman? Because I have been asked that question. Or sometimes, you change the way you dress to fit into a box, a societal expectations, right? And when we do things like that and we don't feel like we belong, we get sick. It damages us, right? And we don't perform well at work. We are not at our most creative. We check ourselves, this code switching thing that I'm talking about, and you're simply not thriving. And I think it happens in the workplace. It can happen socially as well. But it's such an important conversation to be having because it just has such a massive ripple effect on our psyches.
Love that word belonging. And I remember the first time I heard it, I was trying to figure out where that fit into our work and our storytelling. And I think you really hit it home where belonging is not fitting in, but still being welcome, still being able to be your authentic self. And I love this idea of belonging and authenticity, resiliency just echoes through not only all the work that you do as the auctionista, but now through your memoir, through your keynote speeches. And I'm thinking about From She to They. Can you tell us a little bit more about, I know this talk is a passion of yours, and it really is permission for authenticity, permission for belonging. And since we're developing this topic and really diving deeper, or maybe our first rabbit hole of belonging, where did From She to They come from, and how is it less about the transformation? And
right. So She to They came from that lived experience of mine where, when my pronouns were she, and when I made the change, I couldn't bear it anymore, and I changed my pronouns to they, them. And what happened when I did that? The reaction of people, the questioning, the inappropriate curiosity, the inappropriate lines of questions. And, it really hit me hard and unexpectedly as well by folks that I really felt knew me. And and then it spawned this thought of, I talk a lot about the grim reapers and the glory givers in our lives, right? The glory givers are the ones that would say, Layne, you changed your pronouns to they, them. Awesome. I love you. This is great for you. Just go out and do your thing. And the grim reapers, they're the ones that are trying to tear you down and question you and cause judgment and cause damage. So, there was this real internal sense of like, wow, the people that I thought were my glory givers are actually giving grim reaper right now. And what is this all about? And why is this happening? And how do I work through that? How do I stay true to myself, Devon? How do I stay authentic and protect myself so that my psyche and my life is not damaged? And that's really what spawned that keynote. And I felt very strongly about opening up about that, because I think we do live in a world where there is just so much judgment. And, we don't know what people are going through. And, I talk a lot about kindness. Be kind and be gentle with ourselves. But let's be kind and gentle with each other, because we just don't know what this other individual might be going through.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it was a very interesting time in my life where I had my shield up to all the judgment and all of that. And it's like, wow, really? I have just changed my first name and my pronouns, and this is what's happening? Unbelievable. And I thought, no, we've got to talk about this. I've got to talk about this, because if I'm experiencing this, others are as well. And it's not an easy thing to navigate.
And being so public about it, I think what harms us the most oftentimes is not feeling like anyone's going to get it or anyone's had the same lived experience, and you're going through something alone. And to hear a story and to see that visibility and to have permission to say, well, if Layne can do it and the world did not spin off its axis and, the fire and brimstone are not raining down from the heavens, not to say that it was easy, but to say that it is possible, I think brings a lot of hope and light to all of the work that we do, whether it's public facing or private facing. And I love this grim reapers and glory givers terminology. What a great visibility to understanding who's in your orbit and how they bring energy or take energy and who you really want to build up around you. It's such a fantastic visual. And I think I'm going to steal that and use that.
Anytime. It's not trademarked.
Well, good. I don't think you could trademark Grim Reaper, but
probably not. No.
Probably not. But,
no.
We're talking about this integration and humanity. And I think, I would say, and that's a lot of your success is like integration and humanity, because who doesn't feel seen when you're connecting with them and your inner child is coming out and you're being so 100% authentic that everyone can feel safe and belonging in the room and that fantastic connection. And it seems like it runs through not just your professional work, but I know you're public about it. You talked about Sue earlier. You talk about how it's your everyday making her laugh, but making others laugh. And I think you've brought this idea of authenticity into such a beautiful way. And I know you've used the term in thinking about your authenticity and giving us permission as bidding on yourself. And I was wondering if you could help enlighten our listeners, like what is bidding on yourselves and how can we do it too?
One of my keynotes is bidding to be your best. And sure, I talk about auction school and I talk about, being the only gay in the village there and what that was all like. But, I think bidding on yourself means investing in yourself. Breaking those societal expectations is not an easy thing to do. Being the first to have to step forward and say, I am not okay with this. I am calling it out. I'm not going to go with the status quo. These are difficult things to do. And so bidding on yourself means investing in yourself. What is right for Layne? What feels good for Layne? I also, and I know this is going to sound crazy, Devon, but if it's not fun, I'm literally not going to do it. That is a big statement to make. but it is how I live my life. If it's not going to feel good to me, I'm not going to have any part of it. Now, it has taken me almost 64 years to get to this place because, I'm going to be 64 a little bit later this year. And I carry a lot of wisdom, but I also have been working on that for decades. And that courage that I have, and many people say, Layne, you're just so courageous. I am a vulnerable child as well. I am incredibly sensitive and I get hurt and I still cry. But I always come back to, Layne, if it feels good, that's the lane you need to be in. That's what you need to be doing. So I'm always reminding myself, be gentle and kind with yourself, Layne. Do what feels right. Go with your gut feeling. Your little baby Layne, your little child is saying, hey, this is a good move for you. Or who's the glory giver, who's the grim reaper. But it takes courage to walk a path like that. And it's a skill I think that I have built over time based on my lived experience, all the traumas that I have been through and pain in my life, which we all have.
Yeah.
And I have a certain perspective on that as well. I really feel that our lives are filled with highs and lows. We dive down into these deep valleys of pain and trauma, but as we come and rise out of that, we have built new skills.
Absolutely.
Strengthened courage, adaptability, maybe flexibility. And I know that when I come out of a deep valley in my personal life or whatever, that I will be improved, another improved version of myself. So I expect it. I'm prepared for it. And I always look for those nuggets in those moments. Sometimes they're not easy to see when there is trauma, when there is stress in your life. It's not easy to reflect, but like I said, I think it's a skill that I have built over the decades.
That brings me to the sense of resilience. So we've talked about belonging, we've talked about authenticity and betting on yourself. And I kind of want to get into resilience, which I think you're really segueing us into and talking about, because you've also been very public about a lot of the hardships that you've been through. So some of your deeper valleys that have included financial hardships, partnership hardships, of course, reinventing yourself hardships. And I think to your point of sometimes when we're in those deep, deep valleys, that hope that where do I go can feel very lost. And even a lot of us get stuck in that valley of death between changes and highs. So understanding that we can be vulnerable and hurt, but still need to find a direction. What step, just baby steps, as I know you've talked a lot about this in other talks, but when we're talking about this right now, trying to find that one glimmer that gives you the first step so we don't have to see just the staircases and feel overwhelmed. What are the steps, Layne, towards that resiliency, even if it's just a baby step that pushes you in the right direction and gives you the momentum? What's our first step?
When we're in that stress mode, we're in that trauma, we can feel, as to your point, very, very alone. As a survivor of domestic violence decades ago, I learned very early on that you need to ask for help. You can't navigate some of this stuff on your own. We're not built for that always, right? We're not in that reflective mode. We're not seeing things rationally because we're in stress mode. And so I learned very, very early in my life that it's okay to ask for help. It's good to seek help. It's good to surround yourself with the kind of people that are going to support you in the right ways. And that one question to somebody who is in stress or is traumatized, what do you need right now? That says everything.
At least it gives them a direction, like you can come to me.
Right. What do you need right now? Do you need a hamburger, Layne? Is that what you need right now, or an ice cream? Do you need to just vent and unload? And all I say is, yep, I hear you, Layne. I hear you. No judgment, no nothing. So, I think that's the first step, is to kind of take that moment and say, who are the people around me that will give me what I need right now? And to
Absolutely.
be able to express that in in that way to someone. So I think that was something very, very important to me. And also it's this mindset shift about the deep valleys, that, okay, I'm in this thing right now and I will come out of it and I'm going to learn something about myself. When I started shifting my mind to that, that also provides some hope, right? The sky will be blue again. Things will be better because that's how our lives ebb and flow. It's a skill. You've got to train yourself.
You have to build it. And that's what I hear. Yeah.
Right? It's like, just be flexible, Layne. It's not easy, right? But it's like, these little baby steps as we talk about. And I find that, when you find the right support system, the right people, that can make all the difference. And that's, again, tying back to you are not alone. You are not alone in this. And you don't need to be alone. And I think that's where things can get very, very scary, is when you retreat and you do try to manage it alone. That can become a very dark and scary place.
I hear that. And I love that your message is to not do it alone. Even if that's your first step, is to say, I'm not alone and I need to go find someone who I am not alone with and take that first step.
And, that doesn't necessarily mean saying, okay, I guess I better get out my checkbook and my credit card and find a therapist. And maybe I can't afford that. But, for someone like me who's been involved in the charitable sector for almost 2 decades now, there are so many charities out there that provide free services and supports in so many different ways. And so it is accessible and there's no need to go it alone.
Thank you for giving listeners permission and reminder. One of the things that we use a lot is this word glimmer at Smart Meetings. And our founder, Maren Bright, who has sadly passed away, was really big on this idea of glimmer, which we say is the opposite of a trigger. Opposite of a trigger is a glimmer. What I heard is that a group noun for of butterflies is a flutter of butterflies or a glimmer of butterflies. And so we wear butterfly pins to remind each other that there's always a glimmer of hope every day. There's a glimmer of something, of positivity, of joy. And I hope that your words today give a little glimmer to our listeners and remind them that everything comes in a cycle, that belonging is something that we can strive for. Authenticity is something you can bet on. So I have 2 final questions in this glimmer moment, Layne. And the first one is, you've mentioned you're going to be 64. You've really only had this career as a second one, which I think gives a lot of hope to those of us in our 40s or going into our 40s or our 20s, and we're not sure what direction, that there's always chance for reinvention and authenticity at any age. So snaps for that. But in this golden time, and your Beatles song is going to be played later this year, what keeps you curious and excited about this next chapter?
Because I don't know what it's going to be. And I love that. I love improv and surprise. I love exploration. I was never, ever going to be that 35-year gold watch career person behind a desk. I love my life spicy. I love my friends a little spicy. I follow my heart, and I don't know where that's going to take me. And I love that. That excites me. I don't want the straight path forward. I don't want the predictable life. I want to be a child until the day that I'm not on this earth anymore, looking through those wondrous little eyes and saying, what is possible?
Love that. I'm also totally stealing the phrase, love your life spicy.
You can have that one too.
That's a t-shirt now. Are you kidding me? Like, love your life spicy. Add a little extra. Yeah. Even for those of us who don't do spicy, I think life spicy definitely feels like a flavor that is acceptable. So love your life spicy. Well, Layne, as we wind down our fantastic conversation of belonging and authenticity and resilience, we always ask our speakers our favorite question, which is, what one thing has made all the difference in your life and career?
Understand your why. When you know what your why is, when you know why you're here, you know what your purpose is, that is everything. And the fun part is figuring all that out and trying all the new things and being spicy about it. But know your why. The other thing I think, and this is going to be a 2-prong response, is that...
Love a good two for one deal, Layne.
Be kind and be gentle. Always, to yourself and to others.
Absolutely fantastic. I can't thank you enough. And understanding your why can be fun. And reminding people that, and listeners, and I hope you enjoy this statement, that, understanding your why and the journey to finding the why can be joyful. It can add a little spice to your life, remember, we're spicy, looking for our grim reapers and our glory givers, reminding ourselves to ask for help, to bid on ourselves and be authentic. Layne, thank you so much for sharing your story, a spark of wisdom with our Meet Smart community. Conversations like this remind us how small moments can really make a big difference, and that inspiration may always be closer than we think. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us on What One Thing, a Smart Meetings podcast where every story sparks inspiration for your own journey. Until next time, keep creating, keep connecting, and keep sparking change. Layne, thank you so much for being a spark to us today.
Thank you for having me.
Smart Meetings, What One Thing was produced by Bright Business Media. Visit smartmeetings.com to subscribe to your daily dose of inspiration.